So AHAs is our topic today, and AHAs for me has been something that I love them. I've used them for so long, and I think, you know, going back to the days of when I met Dr. Howard Murad, I was ever so grateful that he was able to just do so much work with AHAs and really help develop the the esty community in being able to utilize AHAs in our treatments, because prior to AHAs there wasn't a whole bunch going on. So we just had our traditional treatment products and things. So AHAs is such a huge plus for us. Hello everybody. Hello Alison. Hi Grace. Skin interventions. Hello. So I'm just going to wait just a few minutes. I just want to get some people on here before we start going into all the groupings and just how AHAs really work. So just a little bit longer. But how are you all? It is nice to see you here. Hello Sandra. Hello Rachel. Okay. Hello. Yes, big fan of glycolic acid. Me too. Okay, so let's get started here today. It is a glycolic acid. It's an alpha hydroxy acid day today. It is the alpha hydroxy acid family. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold up this here. I did post this on my Instagram, but I want to show you the common AHAs that we've talked about here. So, it's really important to understand the different types of AHAs that we have that are all in a family, because the advantage of working with AHAs is that they work on different levels in the skin. So the idea of having glycolic, for instance, being your smallest molecule means that it does go deeper into the skin. And then your lactic acid is the next one that's, the second smallest molecule. Then you've got your malic acid, which is your third smallest molecule. And then you've got your tartaric acid, the next one up here. And again, I'll show you up here. And then you've got your mandelic acid and then your citric acid. So they're larger to smaller here in the diagram, just to show you that if you can imagine that, if you've got something like this, and then you have all these little balls that are the smaller balls, of course they're going to go deeper. They're going to be able to penetrate deeper into the skin. So, so the idea of having the different molecules and being able to work with a few different molecules at one time is just going to build a stronger foundation. And that's what's so important. We talk about this, and I talk about this a lot, about just building a really strong foundation in the skin, that how important that is. And I always refer to it, the skin as being like a house. So you want to have a strong roof, you want to have strong walls, and you want to have a strong base. So it is really important to work with different molecules, and not just the glycolic acid or not just the lactic acid. But it is, as I said, it is really important to be able to work with different molecules just to build a strong foundation in the skin. Now, the most common one that you use and I use is glycolic acid, because it does tend to be in more products. It tends to be added to more creams and serums and toners. And that's a lot because of the stability of it. Now, with all these types of things like glycolic acid, they say it comes from sugarcane, but then you've also got this synthetic side of it. So, what's important to note when you're looking at purchasing alpha hydroxy acids is to know that, again, sometimes having something synthetic, which is honestly what is used in most products more than it is the sugarcane derived glycolic, it's just because it's more stable. And the stability of a product is really important, because if it is thrown off, it can affect your skin, it can irritate it, it can do other things. So so glycolic acid, we know it comes from sugarcane originally, and we also know that it is synthetically formed. Now, if you're somebody that has Keratosis pilaris, for instance, and you have all those little bumps on the backs of the arms, or maybe you've got a little bit of the Keratosis pilaris here on, and it normally starts, it's here, it's on this part of the face, or you can get it on your thighs as well. If you're somebody that has Keratosis pilaris, glycolic acid is not the one I'm going to recommend for you, because if you've watched my videos in the past, and I've talked a lot about Keratosis pilaris and just the importance of not having sugar with that. So because glycolic acid comes from sugarcane, we don't want to, you're better to go to maybe a lactic acid, or you're better go to a different type of acid, or a combination of glycolic and something else. But just know that, again, it's most likely derived synthetically, the glycolic. But if you know that your derivative to your glycolic acid is really from the sugarcane, I would say go to something else. But if it is a synthetic form glycolic, and maybe you guys can check with your chemists, whatever product line you're using, check with them and just see, is it a synthetic glycolic that we're using here, or is it really from sugarcane? Because if, that's important to note, because, a lot of us are working on our clients that have Keratosis pilaris, those little bumps. So we don't want sugar. We don't want to have anything to do with sugar. And so it's really important, just something to note about glycolic acid. And then we've got our second smallest molecule, which is lactic acid. And lactic acid is my favorite. It is my favorite because it is, it's the most alkaline of the acids. And that's really important because our skin, the surface of our skin is already a little bit acidic. So anything that's more alkaline is going to be better. So lactic acid is the better acid for a sensitive skin, and it is the safest acid for a sensitive skin. I work with acids, all the time on everybody, sensitive or not. But what you have to know is, just how to work with them. If you're working with somebody that has rosacea or somebody that has eczema, and different types of things. There's different types of layering, and there's things that you can do that are not going to irritate the outer part of the skin, but are going to get down underneath and actually really help it. So I work with alpha hydroxy acids on everybody, and I just love them so much. I feel, in my business, if I didn't have them, it'd be so crazy, because having retinols is one thing, but you can't use retinols on everybody. Alpha hydroxy acids in treatment, you absolutely can. So, lactic acid, it's just one of my favorite, and really my favorite. I just love it. I work with it a lot, and fortunately, the variety of acids, working with them all together is the ultimate, because of them being different weight and size, so they go to different levels in the skin. Now, the third smallest acid is your malic acid, and that one comes from apples. And malic acid is also another really nice acid. Again, what do acids, what do they really do? We know they buffer back and they get rid of that dead cell buildup. They remove that adhesive to within the cells there, and they also get down and stimulate collagen and elastin. So, anything that gets to the fibroblast cells is really important for us, because, we want to keep our skin firm and toned. So, your alpha hydroxy acids are going to do that. They're just going to keep your skin more toned, and it's going to sort of buff off that very outer layer of dead cells, which is what we want, and it's going to tighten it up. So that's why they're really important for shrinking pore size. This is something, lessening the depth of a wrinkle, lightening brown spots. These things, your alpha hydroxy acids are just so great. So your malic acid is your third smallest molecule, and it's not one that I use just a malic acid on its own. I could use a glycolic acid on its own. I could use a lactic acid on its own. But when it comes to the acids that I'm going to be talking about as I move on further, I'm not going to just work with one of those acids on its own. So malic acid's the third. The one after malic is tartaric. And tartaric is the most acidic. So, of course, we know that tartaric comes from wine. And I've talked a lot about this in my videos that I've done when I'm talking about inflammation foods, that wine is one of those foods. So it makes sense because tartaric, also being the most acidic of your alpha hydroxy acid family groupings, it's something that you really have to be careful with. So it's not something that someone that has a lot of heat in their skin, that gets really ruddy, you don't want to be using something like that, nor do you want to be drinking wine. If you are somebody who gets ruddiness, you have heat in your body which comes out on your face, and that's what that redness, that ruddiness is. So, tartaric, again, not one I'm going to use on its own, but it is the most acidic. They all have a purpose. And that's what's great about when you understand that they all have their own purpose, and together they're very, very powerful. So that's what the tartaric is. Then you've got your mandelic acid after that. And mandelic is a larger molecule again. It's not one that's used in abundance. In fact, in the line that I work with, which is the Rejuve line, we don't work with mandelic acid at all, but it is something, again, that helps acne. But, it is a larger molecule. It's something that is neither here nor there. I'm not, it has a purpose, and combined with other things, it's great. But just on its own, it's not something that is going to be, hugely beneficial on its own. And then the last molecule is the citric acid. And citric acid is the largest molecule. I will tell you that a lot of people will work with citric acid in skincare. It does come from lemons and limes. It definitely is more acidic. And it's something that's used a lot more because it is one of the cheaper versions of an alpha hydroxy acid. So it's often used a lot in skincare products. Now, what's really important to understand is that when somebody says, oh, I can't use an AHA on my skin, I can't use a glycolic, there are so many different kinds. And, again, we've talked about they're either going to be derived from their natural source or they're going to be synthetically derived. And either one, obviously your synthetic is going to be more stable. So if somebody says that I've used AHA on my skin before, it doesn't work for me, it doesn't mean that every AHA that's out there is a problem for you. And I think that, that's something that's really important to note, because, some people come in to me and they say, I can't use, glycolic, I'm allergic to it. But it is understanding now the brand, the formula is always very, very important when you're talking about products and ingredients. The formula, the delivery system that was developed to get those actives down to the layers where they need to be. This is all very, very important for you to understand that all of these things make a huge difference when you're working with product. You want a delivery system that has lesser irritation on the surface and that but penetrates and takes it to the levels in the skin where the skin is going to really benefit. And that's what's so important. So your delivery system is very important when it comes to formulas, and especially when you're talking about actives and things that can be irritating. So, your citric acid, again, is another great alpha hydroxy acid molecule. But, if it's not in the right delivery system, it's just going to irritate the skin. And I think, a lot of people, what happens is they go out there and they purchase alpha hydroxy acids, either it's a glycolic, a lactic, whatever it is they've purchased, and it irritates their skin. It's because it's not within a great delivery system or a great formula, because you don't want irritation on your skin. You want to get it down to where it needs to go so that, you're really seeing great benefit from it. And that's what's important to understand. So in other words, when I'm working with my alpha hydroxy acids, you don't get a lot of stinging. The client doesn't feel an enormous amount of stinging on the skin, and nor do they get terribly red, okay? Because the delivery system is set up so that it goes to the lower layers in the skin where it needs to go. Now, you've also got something that you have to consider. And again, I'm just going to hold this up for you. I have it posted on my Instagram anyway, but this is your different. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was upside down. I apologize. Here we go. Let's start again. Glycolic acid. So, this is your molecular weight, and you can see the sizes, but again, it is posted on my Instagram, so you can see it. You can see the weight and size that's there. Yeah, so that's the level, that's the order that it goes in. But then, you've got the different types of things, and I want to show you this. You've got glycolic acid. Obviously, it comes in a cream form. Okay, now this is a Rejuve one that I'm showing you, but this is an AHA cream. Now, for instance, this, because it is in a cream, it's more sticky. It is, it's more buffered, and the actual benefits of a cream for some people are it's really important to use creams, whereas some people can get away with using something like more a gel, which is in a serum here, a serum form. So, you've got your three different types, different ways of being able to produce and put an AHA, a family of them, or just individually into products. So then you've got the liquid type, okay? Now this one here, when shaken, its carrier is extraordinary, this one, because it's a complex. So when I talk about glycolic, I talk about lactic, malic, tartaric, and citrus, and the mandelic is in there too, second from the end. We have 5 different AHAs in our fruit complex. So, the difference of it, again, is you're getting to those different levels in the skin. So I want you to kind of think about that when you are purchasing your alpha hydroxy acids. Have a look at what the molecule is. Is it a glycolic? Is it a lactic? If you can get one that's got a couple, that's fantastic. Most of them don't have any more than a couple. But there's a lot that are just singular. So you want to make sure that, if you can get them with more than one, it's going to be better for you. And so again, your gel is going to go a little bit deeper than your cream because your cream's buffered. So if you're somebody that's really starting out and you're wanting to try your alpha hydroxy acids and you're wanting to play with them a little bit, because AHAs make such a difference in the skin, and it's what I use on my own skin every single day. But it makes the skin strong, and it keeps your pore size small. So if you have larger pores, you have wrinkles, you want to keep everything at bay, it's really good to use AHAs on your skin every single day or night. It's a really important thing to use to stimulate your fibroblast cells, to get activity there, which keeps your skin strong. So your cream, if you're just starting out and you want to start slow, which is often recommended, especially if your skin is sensitive and it's sensitive, then start with a cream, because it's buffered. We know it's something that's probably going to be safer for you to work with. And then if you want to, you're using something like another serum, but you want to add, maybe try your glycolic or your lactic or your combination of your different ones then try it in a serum form. And so you can sort of work your way up, but cream is going to be the safest. Your serum is next. And what I use in my treatments are the stronger ones, which are the liquid. A liquid is always going to be stronger. It's going to penetrate deeper. It's more water, less oil, and it's going to work a lot better that way. So these are just the different types of things to look for. And, again, if you're working with serums, your alpha hydroxy acids in a serum, it's great. It's so great. And especially if you're an oily skin, you want to work with AHAs and also combine your BHA in there, which is your salicylic acid, which really inhibits sebum, the sebaceous glands. So if you're someone that's a combination to oily skin, AHAs are fantastic. And then you can bring in a little bit of your salicylic acid, which of course we know is really going to decrease your oil activity. Now there's another acid that a lot of people talk about, and that one is the Malic Acid, and that one is very similar. It's a BHA though, it's not an AHA. So it also has to be broken down by adding it to a water. So it's something that is, it's not as powerful, it's not as active. Your salicylic acid is always going to be better. And the acids are really important, because if you're going to start working with different acids, you want to work with them so you're seeing results pretty quickly. And the azelaic acid is mostly found in a lot of hair care products and that as well, because it does stimulate, and for hair growth, it helps the hair growth to be better. So acids in products, and especially in hair care products, it helps keep the hair follicle really clean. Even if you're using it in a body lotion, it's just so great, because it helps keep your skin more smooth, and it helps to keep it more even toned. So if you're somebody that does get a little blotchy on your body, look for a body product that has a little AHA in it, because your AHAs are just, they're so great in keeping the skin young and youthful. So it's going to help with keeping your skin firm and toned on your body, but it's also going to help keep the skin smooth and more even. And these are things that are really important when you're working with, with body products. If you're going to be purchasing and spending money, you want to make sure it's doing something for you, and it's not just a nice hydrating moisturizer. So the Rejuvi body lotion that we have, it does have a little bit of your alpha hydroxy acid in it, and it's really nice, But there are other brands out there, and there are brands out there that are not even, I think even Vaseline, or, I've seen them out there, that some that have a little bit of your retinols in them, and some that have your alpha hydroxy acids in them. So, you want to have something that you're using on your body that is doing good, and keeping the skin tone, really soft and even and tight. We all want tight, don't we? Yes. Okay, so we've talked about the different molecules. I'm just looking here to see what else we've covered. We've talked about the viscosities of the products, meaning that the cream has a much higher viscosity. It's thicker, it's more safe for a more sensitive skin. This one here, your serum, is going to be a medium viscosity, and it's going to penetrate a little bit deeper. Really great for oily skins. I know when I spoke for New Beauty Magazine, I'm on their Brain Trust. I talked a lot about the Rejuvi AHA serum being a product that is so effective for keeping pore size small. And a lot of people, most people have got, pores medium to larger size, especially if you're more oily active skin. So that's a really important thing. And again, just working, professionally, when we work with our alpha hydroxy acids, I always do my AHAs after I do extractions. And the reason why I do my AHA after I do extractions is I want the skin to be clean, because at that point, once I've cleaned out a pore, I can then go ahead and shrink it. And so I always do my AHAs at, near the end before I go to put the mask on. So I'm gonna massage the skin. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to then do my extractions, really clean the skin well, and being really thorough with that is so important. And then go back in with my alpha hydroxy acid, and then shrink those pores. And a lot of people say, but pores, you can't shrink pores. And I say, I do it all the time. And I wish you could see some of my clients that, first came to me with that orange peel skin, with those, that thickened skin that has really large pores. And then, and I do AHAs, and they use AHAs at home, and they've got a completely different skin. And it stays that way. Their pores are really small. I have so many clients that, I wish you could see just the difference that it makes. So AHAs are so important. I mean, I would be lost without my AHAs, really, from a professional point of view, and also not being able to use it at home. It's so great having AHAs in your daily regimen. It's so important. So these are the things that are really important. Now, the other thing that's really important that I want to mention is that if you're an esty and you're purchasing alpha hydroxy acids to use in your treatment room, you have different percentages that you can buy. And you maybe can, you've got a 25%, you've got a 35%. We as esties can't use above 40%. Our AHA, our percentage is important, but what's really important is understanding too what your pH is. So in other words, in this product here that I use, this one is only a 25%, but it is equivalent to probably a 35% in another brand, because my pH is a little bit lower than 3.0. Okay, so this is like around a 2.8 pH. Now, if you're using, it is in an extraordinary vehicle, this one here. So you will get barely any redness on the surface. When you shake it up, it's almost oily looking, but it's not oily when you put it on, but it has a little bit of somewhat oily feel to it. And you know, again, as I said, the delivery system's so important, but when your pH is what's really important. So whatever brand it is that you're using, you want to find out what your pH is. Most of them are going to be around a 3.0, and that's what's considered safe. Okay. I did talk about this in one of my previous videos, that a client had purchased online an alpha hydroxy acid that was, it was a glycolic, actually, just the one molecule, a glycolic acid, a 70% with a pH lower than 2%. And I could not believe the photos that she sent of her skin, because she burnt her skin so bad. And now she's dealing with the aftermath of the melasma and the blotchiness of it. So at first it was very scary for her. What's scary is that people are able to purchase these types of things online. So I need for people to understand that if you're using an alpha hydroxy acid and your pH is lower than 3.0, it's risky. You don't want to use anything risky, because what is risky, what can happen if you're using risky AHAs is that you're going to make melasma worse. You know, someone who maybe never had melasma could now have melasma. And it makes the skin very vulnerable. So these things are really important. Your percentage is really important. Your pH is really important to know. Your delivery system, you want to not get too much stinging on the outside and too much redness on the outside. You want it to get to the levels where it's going to make a difference, because that's what makes your skin better, you know, is when you're getting to your fibroblast cells and you're stimulating fibroblast cells, and then you're getting to all the levels in there, which is why a complex of your alpha hydroxy acids is so great. It's similar to when I spoke about the retinoids and the difference of using, you know, just retinoic acid, which is retin A, or using your retinoid families, you know, your acetate, your palmitate, your different molecules of your A groupings is really important when you work with a variety of them. So most importantly, I want you to understand that, you know, what AHAs are. They're amazing. They work on lessening the depth of a wrinkle. They lighten up brown spots. They tighten the skin. They make a skin more youthful. They really do. So, you know, as I said, without them, I mean, I would not like to not have my alpha hydroxy acids. But, you know, the risk is if you go too deep too quickly with anything, you go too deep with your 70%, you burn the skin, I mean, then you're left with a burnt skin that now you have to get back to basics. You can't even think about using AHA or a retinol for some time until you build your skin back. And once you upset that acid mantle on top, it's really hard to get it back. So you just don't want to go there. You don't want to play with that. So, you know, I want you to ask more questions when you're purchasing an alpha hydroxy acid. You know, find out what it is. What is the molecule that you're working with? Is it glycolic? Glycolic is the most popular. It absolutely is. It's the most stable. It's very effective, and it's great. But if you can get it with a couple of molecules, it's going to be better. And especially if you can work with the lactic acid, because lactic is so great. So ask questions. You know, what is the pH? It's not just about a percentage. You know, if your pH is high, you know, 3.5 or something, it's not going to be, you know, necessarily as effective. So 3.0 is a great pH to that's safe but still very effective. And your percentages, you know, for the consumers, you know, if you're using a 10%, like for instance, this cream here, this one here is a 12%. AHA, but it is, you know, in a cream form. It is buffered. I do have other creams that are that are 14%, and then I have one for sensitive skin that is even less percentage. So, you know, these things are really important. You just kind of want to know what it is you're doing, and you know, just have some knowledge about the products that you're putting on your face, because it's your face and you want to, you know, you want to take care of it and give it the best, and just keep it healthy and pretty all the time. So, you know, ask questions whether you're buying it from a store or whether you're buying it from your aestheticians, you know, and USDs, you know, you need to know these things about your products. You need to know your tools. You need to know the products that you're selling to your clients. And that's a really important thing. So, you know, so again, the topic today being about alpha hydroxy acids, the things that make a difference, your delivery systems, you know, things that can really make it hard to, you know, if you're using an alpha hydroxy acid, the more layers you put on, wherever you put on your alpha hydroxy acid, you know, the thing that's the closest to the skin is going to be the better thing, right? In that it's going to get to the lower layers more than someone that's up here. But the thing that's really important to understand is you don't want to set up a sensitive slate in the beginning. So for instance, if you're using a cleanser and your cleanser has alpha hydroxy acids in it, glycolic, the Rejuvi one has a little tiny bit of an AHA in it, and so little that I can use the cleanser around my eyes and it doesn't burn my eyes, and nor does it dry my skin or anything like that. So you want to make sure that if you're using a cleanser with a glycolic in it, and there are a lot of cleansers out there, that it doesn't make your skin tight and squeaky clean like a foaming cleanser. Because if you set up a sensitive slate in the beginning, everything you put on your skin after that can be a problem, okay? And then you're not going to get the best out of your regimen. So when you're working with a regimen as a whole, everything has a purpose, and it should all work together like in synergy form, right? So you don't want to start with a cleanser or something that is going to be stronger like a glycolic. You don't need a glycolic in a cleanser to clean your skin well. And you don't, you know, you maybe want to save your AHAs, your glycolic or your lactic, to your serum or your treatment moisturizer, because it's going to stay on your skin and it's also going to have more benefits. So, you know, my suggestion to you is, if you want to start working with your AHAs, don't get them from your cleanser and don't get them from a toner. Because again, you know, there are some toners out there that are high in your lactic acid, and people feel that it helps clean their skin a little bit better if they're using a toner. But you want it to stay on the skin. So if it's a toner that's not going to irritate your skin, and if it's a toner that's just you're using it as an exfoliant, and maybe you're using it 2 or 3 times a week, then that's okay. But just don't set up a sensitive slate so that when you go to put on your treatment serum and your treatment product thereafter, that you're going to have problems with it. And I see this so much in working with people, is that I see people set up a really sensitive slate. Their skin is dry on the top, they're oily underneath, and that oil just can't get out because they've dried it out, and they've got some toner or some cleanser that's stripping, that makes their skin tight and squeaky clean. And then they have such a difficult time with the rest of their products, and it doesn't work. So, you know, if you are experiencing this, then, you know, save your AHAs, save them for your serums and your treatment products, so that you're getting the benefit of it, so that your skin is spongy, and that you've got fullness in it, but you've also got, you know, a really hydrated levels in your skin, because AHAs do all of that. You know, they hydrate, they keep your skin firm, they, again, shrink pore size, lighten brown spots, they do so much. So it's really important to just understand this. Your placement of where you use your AHA is super important in your regimen. So save it to a time where your skin's gonna benefit the most. You don't want it in your cleanser. You possibly don't want to use it just as your exfoliant and maybe use it in a toner. You want to keep it for your serums and your treatment products. And that's where you're going to get the most benefit from your alpha hydroxy acids, because they are amazing. You want them to be in a great delivery system so that they get down to those lower layers and they hydrate and they keep your skin strong and sturdy. Now, when I first started using alpha hydroxy acids every single day on myself, it probably was about 15 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago. And I'll tell you that since I use AHAs every single day on my own skin, it's made my skin better. So I have never done any lasers. I've done a little filler here. I do a little Botox here. I'm not into doing lasers and stripping back my skin. I'm into good skincare and taking care of my skin every single day, because I know long term my skin's going to be better for it. So, I want you to think about this. And again, it's these things when you're working with AHAs, you want to be able to use them every single day. You don't want to use anything too strong and that's going to irritate, that's going to put you back to square one. You want to work with things every single day that support your skin and keep it young and youthful and pretty, okay? So I'm going to have a look at some of the questions here just at the moment. And I know a lot of you are asking questions. I'm going to go back and just see if I can have a look and see what some of the questions are to answer some of them for you. So what do you recommend for hyperpigmentation on the inner thigh area? Okay, I recommend you could get a body lotion that has your AHA in it, but also you're going to have to work a little bit with retinols there. The hyperpigmentation between the legs, if it's because the legs are knocking, and you have to work a little bit with retinols and AHAs in that area to lighten that up. But there are great body lotions that do have them in as well. So it's it's important. You have to use something like that. That's what's going to help with hyperpigmentation in areas. Oops, sorry. Okay, so I love you. Oh, how passionate you are. Thank you, Gallery Aesthetics. Thank you. I love my work. Don't you all love your work? You Esties out there, don't we love our work? I just wish we could get back and work, right? It's like, what are we, the last to be called on to come and help our clients? I mean, thank goodness for virtual consults. That's all I can say. Hello there. I have an issue with green shadow in between my eyebrows. How can I decrease the shadow? AHAs and retinols lighten everything. So, are you working with actives? Work with actives. Licorice extract, kojic acid. The arbutins are great. They're a derivative of a hydroquinone and they're safe. Look at some of those that really help with, lightening shadows, and especially arnica and some of these licorice extract is so great. Fantastic for lightening. So, okay, what's this one here? What about the Rejuvi Skin Refreshener? Is that enough of a moisturizer? Refreshener is not really a moisturizer. It's a tonic. If you're an oily skin and you live in a really humid climate, it could be enough. But generally, it's tonics are not moisturizers. Oh, sorry. Not very good at doing this. You love AHAs. Yes, I do too. Thank you. They're just fabulous. Okay, how do you find out what your skin's pH is? Normally it's, it's normally a little bit acidic, okay, your skin's pH. There are machines that can show you what your skin's pH is, and I don't have them in my practice. I don't necessarily look, this is for Cindy, I don't necessarily, I guess because I've been working with skin for so long, if a skin has been stripped and I can see it stripped and it's that tight, squeaky, clean look, and I can see that I need to bring it back and buffer it back more, go more alkaline than acidic. It's often the same thing. I'm often taking them off the acidic foods, as well as really introducing more like something like your lactic acid. That doesn't answer your question, but I know there are machines that help. I think there are even strips that you can purchase that you can find out what your pH is of your skin. If anybody has that answer here, put it up so we can see. Nerida, is it okay to use an AHA product with a pH of 3 on a daily basis? Absolutely. That is the safest. And, you know, I mean, using it daily is really important. To get the results and benefits of an alpha hydroxy acid, you have to use them daily. It keeps my skin so much better. As I said, I'd be absolutely lost if I, you know, the idea of not being able to work with AHAs. So, okay, let's have a look. AHA is good for acne-prone skin. AHAs are great. I work with my alpha hydroxy acids, and again, it's a complex, but you also have to work with salicylic acid, because if, you know, your BHA, salicylic is a BHA, it's not in the alpha hydroxy acid family. But your BHAs is, you know, they're the ones that really inhibit your sebaceous activity. So salicylic acid is great for, it's the best molecule for working with your oily acnetic skins, and I work with both. So your AHAs are really important, but your salicylic is even more so. Oh my goodness, how did I do that? Okay, we need to get rid of that. Okay, sorry. How do you find out what? Okay, that okay. Sorry, just going to answer a couple more questions here for you guys. Is it okay to use the AHAs during pregnancy? Absolutely, the Rejuvi or any AHAs. The only thing you should not use during pregnancies is retinols. And some will say it's absolutely fine, especially the over-the-counter retinols. A lot of them could be fine, but I do recommend not using retinols when it comes to being pregnant, because, you know, it's your vitamin A, it's toxic in large quantities, and you just don't want it to build up and then be a problem for you later on. So, but yes, alpha hydroxy acids are absolutely fine to use during pregnancy. What about melasma? You know, AHAs are great. I mean, it's all part of, when I'm working on my brightening up melasma, you know, lightening brown spots, these types of things, sun damage. You know, your alpha hydroxy acids are a really important part of the process for me. So it's really, really important to use them. And, you know, in fact, it's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned in working, in trying to lighten and brighten brown spots and sun damage and melasma. But the thing about it is, if you go too strong, you know, and this is what I talked about before, if you think strong is better in AHAs, you're absolutely wrong. You're incorrect. You are better to work with alpha hydroxy acids on a milder base and do it every day than use a strong AHA on your skin. And you know, as 70%, like I told you, with a very low pH is just risky business, and it makes it worse. So the only way you're going to get benefit is using something every single day, but on a milder basis. And of course, using a really great sunscreen, because just using things to lighten and brighten melasma and brown spots is, if you're not using a sunscreen, you're almost going to make it worse. So you have to make sure your sunscreen, and I'm going to refer to it as a sun block, because, you know, you have to use at least a 40, an SPF 40. You also need it to be very high in your physical blocks, which is your zinc, titanium, and your iron oxides. You want to make sure that you're using a physical block. Is really important when you're dealing with anything to do with melasma and lightening and brightening brown spots and sun damage. Very, very important. Okay, so is lactic acid, is the 10% okay? It depends on your pH. You know, 10% seems low, right? But it depends what your pH is. It's very important. You can't just say, is a 30% okay? Because a 30% with a pH lower than 2% is very, very strong and more doctor strength. So it does depend on your pH. But and the vehicle, you know, is it going to be in a liquid form? Is it going to be in a gel form, or is it in a cream form? Because all of this matters, okay? If you've got a 10% lactic acid in a cream form, it's going to be not as strong as in the gel form or the liquid form. So those things are very important to understand. The viscosity of your product is going to change that. So all of those things make a difference. So are there any books understanding the pH and acid percentage on a product? You just need to ask your chemist, because it's about the product itself. Every chemist is going to do it differently. Their formulas are different. But the pH, I'm just going to tell you, anything above 3 is very safe. Anything below 3 is starts to get more risky, and you need to know what the vehicle, the lipoceutical vehicle is. So you need to speak to your chemists when you're using it, find out what the pH is, and look at what their delivery system is. You know, is it something, do you get less redness on the surface and more activity underneath? Because that's what you want. You don't want irritation on the surface. You want activity underneath. That's what you want. When do you apply your AHAs, AM or PM? I use them I always use it in the AM and sometimes in the PM, but most PMs I'm going to use something, again, it's a buffered, it's a high viscosity, but it is going to be my retinol. It's going to be in a cream form usually. Occasionally I might use it in a serum, but that is going to be stronger. So I always use my AHAs in the morning, always, because I use a makeup and a sunblock, and that's, you know, that's what I do. So so that's what I do. I just bought the Rejuve retinol at your suggestion, trying it, very gently. So, you know, the retinols, your serum, your retinol serum is going to be stronger than your retinol cream, which is your A night gel. So yes, make sure you layer. You've got to put your layer, do your layering when you're using, you know, your retinol especially. You want to make sure you put on your serums before you put on your retinol. And if you start to get a little irritation, use a little bit of lotion, your treatment, your moisturizer over top of it to buffer it back. Don't be in a hurry. Just take it slow and build up to working, especially with your retinols. Very important. What do you recommend under the eye area for dark circles? You know, anything that is your flavonoids is great. Your arnica is fantastic. Your mallow extract, cucumber, anything that's soothing and calming, aloe vera. You know, you want hydrating, but you want soothing and calming, and a lot of the soothing and calming, the things that support your little blood vessels are also going to help with dark circles. So, you know, your what I call your bioflavonoids are really great. Your arnica, your ivy, your mallow extract, these things are really great. Licorice extract, kojic acid, these types of things are great for dark circles. Can I use AHAs during pregnancy? Absolutely. What do you do when you overuse AHA and retinols? I'm breaking out like crazy. Okay, so what's happened, if someone's gone overboard with AHAs and retinols, what that means is you've upset that acid mantle. You have to take it back. You've got to get back to basics. You've got to go back to square one. You've got to put it all aside, and that's why it's really important not to be in a hurry and don't go too strong with your things. You have to just get back to basics. Use a very gentle cleanser. And again, not foaming. I'm not a foaming cleanser person, and all of you guys know that. It's just not worth it. So so get back to a very gentle cleanser, and just, you know, some healing gel, something that's high in aloe vera. You've got to start just building it back. Maybe a little bit of your Q flavonoid, a drop or two, which again is just your arnica, your mallow extract. You've got to just start building it back, and a little bit of a regular moisturizer. If you do that for a week, you should be able to start introducing your AHAs again. You know, retinols are, your AHAs should come first before your retinols. And I don't always recommend AHAs to everybody, although I would say probably 85% of people I am going to recommend an AHA to. Sometimes when looking at a skin, I'm going to see that a retinol is going to be better. For some skin types, they can't use both because one is going to be enough and more than enough. And for other skin types, it's you know, your AHAs on its own are just fantastic. If you guys look at my Instagram photos of Layla, which she has the more mature skin. She's in her 60s. She has the lines, and I did a before and after with her. She does not use any retinol. She is all AHAs. When your skin is thin and fine, like my skin, okay, I'm English background. English background, okay, I'll just say this. My grandparents were English, went to Australia in the 1800s on a boat. And I always laugh about this because, you know, we were sent from, you know, one country where there's hardly any sun to a country where there's so much sun and so little ozone and the highest skin cancer rate in the world. So, you know, Australia is there's so, you know, the highest skin cancer rate over there, so much sun. So I laugh about it because, you know, a lot of us are so fair, right? And it certainly wasn't where we started out at. So it's just really important to understand, if you are a thinner skin like my skin, using retinols, you have to be careful, you know, because retinols, they're different to AHAs. You know, both of them do this. They build a very strong structure underneath the skin. They're both fantastic. They make your skin strong and sturdy. But your retinols are going to buffer back your skin more than your AHAs on the outside. They're going to make your skin more sensitive to the sun than your alpha hydroxy acids. So on a thinner skin like my skin, I could not use retinols all the time on my skin. But yet the AHAs, the combination of them are both fantastic. So, you know, some skins, like Layla's skin in my videos and on my Instagram, she only uses AHAs and her skin is fabulous. But some skins, and especially on a more olive skin or a darker skin tone, sometimes an AHA on that skin can burn it and make the melasma worse and make the skin more blotchy. So then very often I'm going to go more the retinol route. So, you know, it's the combination of the two are generally best for everybody. But occasionally I am going to say, you know what, you're not a retinol candidate and I'm going to give you an AHA. And then for somebody else, I'm going to say, you know what, you're definitely a retinol candidate. It's going to help with the scarring. It's going to help with the skin. So much so. Because a darker skin tends to be thicker. And a thicker skin is a stronger skin, so it can take the environment better. You know, it doesn't age as quickly as a thinner skin like my skin. So it can take the strength of it can take the environment better, it can take the sun better. So, you know, that's why sometimes retinols are better going with the darker skin tones in how it heals and works with the skin. But for, you know, a lighter skin tone, sometimes retinols, you've got to be really careful, guys. So, so I just wanted to point that out, okay? Okay, yes, and okay, one more question. I know we're getting up to almost an hour. There are pH pens. Okay, thank you. Oh, hello, beautiful girl. How are you? Last time I saw you was at one of the aesthetic shows. Hello. There are pH pens. So for the person who asked the question about you know, how you can tell your pH of your skin, here we are. There are pH pens that you can buy from Amazon and it'll tell you what your skin pH is. Thank you so much for answering that question. I adore you. How are you? Anyway, you guys, it was really great to be here with you again. I'm going to be back next week. I think it's Tuesday. I'm going to be back with my 5-star community. We are doing a live with you guys and you'll be getting that information shortly. But I'll be back to talk more. My next one's going to be about vitamin C's and talking about vitamin C, and that'll be next week for the rest of you. And it was great to be here and talk to you about AHAs and my love for AHAs, how they work, their benefits are so wonderful. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to being back with you all again next week. Bye.